So, a lot of TV shows came back this week. So to say that this particular video is going to be very long might be an understatement. Let's see how quick or how long this will take. I'm going to start with The Walking Dead, of course. I usually do that. The episode was entitled Spend. And at the beginning, we see that somebody looks like they broke into Jesse's house. And Rick, of course, not only being the sheriff, but he has a thing for her, he was willing to investigate it. And I didn't really know where that was going. I didn't know if it was going to be somebody in the town that we had to look out for, if the husband snapped or what. But I did like that Rick was doing that. Later on, we had a scene where the husband actually went to Rick's house and offered to be friends, which was a little weird and creepy. More so because we could tell that this guy was drunk as shit. And he offered to give his kids a checkup, and you're like, really? Rick should trust you examining his fucking kids? Alright there, guy. And then we see this part of the group go on a supply run. They were looking for micro inverters. And I will give Eugene credit for being an honest coward. I don't know how many times or how you can give somebody credit for that, but he was honest about it. He didn't want to go. He said he would be useless, and at first he was, but they needed him to come because he was the only one who knew what this stuff looked like. And when they went into the warehouse, now this was what? Glenn, Tara, Eugene, and the two other kids, Aiden and somebody else. So when they're in there, these walkers come out of nowhere. And one of them is like a guard, almost like at the prison. He had the mask on, so you couldn't shoot him in the head. And he just kept coming and coming. And Aiden, I guess, was freaking out and just was shooting him and didn't realize that he had a grenade on his jacket. And the grenade goes off. Fuck! So not only do you have the group scattered, hurt, delirious, Tara hit her head and she's losing blood from her head. Great. Aiden, this is Deanna's son, by the way. He got sprung back into this thing that impaled him almost. Like 2 sharp edges through his chest and stomach. He looked like he was dead. And then you see the walkers are now coming in through the fence, and they look like they're screwed. They go into this closet and they're freaking out. Glenn notices that Aiden's still alive, and that moment made me think of this is what Walking Dead used to be like, right? Or at least I feel like we haven't seen a situation like this in a while, where you have a character who you might not give too much of a shit about, but he's still a human being. He's still a person. He's still technically a part of this group. So do you save him? Or do you save your own ass and say, he's screwed anyways? But no, of course, Glenn goes back out there. And that's when Eugene had a quick moment where he said, hey, I'm not at fault here. You guys shouldn't have brought me. He was talking to Tara, even though she was passed out. And the moment where you see him coming out of the door, like his head peeks out, and I thought, you fucker, you're leaving her there to die? Until you see that he's carrying her on his shoulder. I appreciated that. The one moment where Eugene actually grew some balls. Wow, who expected Eugene, of all people, to grow some balls? And then he was shooting at walkers that were coming at them. So again, props to his character. Something I never thought I would say. And Aiden, Diana's son, again, you could say that who cares about him? I saw memes saying, oh, you know, that moment when nobody cares about your death. Again, I can't say I cared per se, but I did feel bad in a sense that looked like it sucked. I mean, here's a guy who he told them to leave because it wasn't working. Walkers were coming and they wouldn't have been able to save him. And even his one friend whispered to him that you left them, this is what we do, and he left. And then Aiden said to Glenn that we left them, and this whole, like, we left them, then I'm like, what are they fucking talking about? I was lost. I was completely lost. I even had to rewind it to make sure I heard them right. And then I remembered that when they first met, they said that they had just lost a couple of people. Freak accident, right? Well, no, I guess this is what they do. They leave people when shit goes bad. They don't even make an attempt to save them like Rick or Glenn or they do. So that's what they were talking about. And like I said, just watching the overhead shot of Aiden being stuck and then being eaten alive by walkers was disturbing. That's why I felt bad. It's a way that if I was in the zombie apocalypse, that's my worst nightmare, dying like that. But then you cut to Glenn and Noah wind up in that revolving door with the other fucking guy. I don't even remember his name. He will be known as that other fucking guy. Because they're stuck in there, and just the moment of them being stuck and walkers are on both sides, and you're like, holy fuck, how are they going to get out of this? So Glenn's trying to maneuver the doors out to get the gun, and the other fucking guy is freaking out. And long story short, he moves his side so that he doesn't get taken, and opens up the other side, and Noah gets taken. And when he gets grabbed, he tells Glenn, don't let go, and then he just gets sucked out of there. And there's a shot where it's just Glenn reacting, like he looks over, and you're thinking, all right, we're not going to see Noah die. We're seeing Glenn's reaction to it. But then no, Noah gets like thrown against the glass, and we see him get ripped apart. I mean, this might be the most gruesome death on The Walking Dead. There's been a lot of them. Dale's stomach being ripped open, and I'm sure there's other characters. T-Dog got ripped apart by walkers. I'm sure I'm missing a couple, but this just seemed and looked brutal, and it was sad, and I was in shock, and I wanted to cry, you know, like, I didn't think I would have cared so much about Noah's death. I guess it was just so unexpected. And when you stop and think of how young Noah is, he's just a teenager, it was completely unexpected. I felt horrible after watching it, especially the circumstances. Glenn's reaction, wow. Brutal stuff. Emotional. I mean, what more can I say? We had a side plot of Abraham working with members of the group, and they're outside, like, working construction, trying to build more of a wall, and then walkers show up there. And that's where we see another portion of the group who was quick and ready to leave one of their members of the group, a woman, and Abraham was the one who ran out there to save her. Now, Abraham was having his own moments throughout this where he would stop and kind of freak out. It's almost like he's going through PTSD like Sasha is, so you didn't know where his head was at until he went into hero mode. And I liked him for that, and I like that even though the other people are fuckers, at least the one guy went back to Deanna and told her the truth and said, look, I fucked up. I would have gotten these people killed. Abraham knew what he was doing. He should be the leader. And Diana made him the leader. So that happened. And Carol, we see Carol and the little kid, Sam. Sam is determined to get these fucking cookies. I guess they're that good. Makes me want some. And Carol seemed like she wasn't really trying to have a conversation with him. She was being very cold to him. You see almost how far Carol has fallen when it comes to humanity and people in general. But then when she started to come around, talk to him, and we find out that this kid was the one who broke the thing earlier that Jesse was talking about. And he did it because he was pissed about his father. His father's a drunk and probably beats his mom. Who fucking knows? So Carol picked up on that, and she went and told Rick. If Rick didn't have more of a reason to kill this fucking guy, well, he does now. So that's completely set up for next week. It seems like it's going to happen. I don't know how it doesn't. Wow. Not only that, but because Deanna's son has now died, we get Gabriel. Father Gabriel, the pastor, right? Should be the most righteous man in the group, right? Well, no, he shows up and tells Deanna that, hey, you can't trust Rick and his group. They've done some fucked up things. And even Deanna's like, look, I get it. They've been out there. They've had to do some messed up things to survive. But they're family. We can trust them. And he's like, no, you don't understand. They've done some fucked up things. You can't trust them. And he like forced her to second guess that. And I'm sitting there the whole time going, what the fuck, you dick, you asshole. Everything that this group has done for you. When they first saw you, you were hiding on top of a fucking rock away from walkers, and they saved your ass. They've saved you countless times when you went off and lured that pack of walkers to the church and fucked up their hideout. Even when you admitted that you locked yourself in this church and let how many people out there die? But you're talking about Rick's done some fucked up things? Fuck you, Gabriel. You have officially become my most hated character on this show. I hate him. I hate him. I hate him. The fact that we lost Noah in this episode, but Gabriel's still alive, pisses me off. Gabriel better be dead by the finale. You could tell I'm pissed about that. Great episode anyways, though. So much happened. I wasn't expecting the deaths here. Now let's talk about Bates Motel. This, too, was a good episode. At the beginning, we see that the girl in room 4 is still missing. And I loved how the whole episode played up. The fact that I'd say we were 75-25 sure that Norman killed her, right? All of the evidence pointed to that. And Norma was being wary, but when Emma told her that Norman drove her to wherever she went, I loved Norma's reaction. Vera Farmiga, I've said before, is fantastic as this character, but her reaction, just her shocked and angry look on her face, I loved. I loved it, and I loved that she went right to Norman and was pissed off. I feel like, at least the first half of this, she was the good character, or the character that you got behind and you wanted to see do what she was doing. And I said, wow, for once she's being normal. She's reacting to Norman normally, and she's even a little scared of him, doesn't trust him or believe him. And then we get a moment where Norman tells his mom that he's dating Emma, which was something that was kind of big, because every other woman that has been interested in Norma has been against it. She's been like, no, you get away from them, you're mine, basically, and it was a little weird. But her reaction to him being with Emma, she liked it. She likes Emma. Emma's a good girl. And I agree with that. We see Norman and Emma go on their very first date. I think Norman's official first date, which is interesting. And Norman is very awkward, right? We've known this. But when you look at the series, when you notice that every hot chick on this show, almost even including his mom, which sounds weird, but every hot chick has not only been interested in Norman, but have thrown themselves at Norman. How weird is that? His teacher, who is hot in herself, but you have Bradley, who was hot, and he even lost his virginity to Bradley, which I question whether or not that really happened or wasn't in his head. No, I guess it really fucking happened. Then you have this girl in room 4, which, okay, maybe she didn't come on to him, but she was kind of giving him the eye, right? Being a little flirty, and we don't know what happened really in the car. And then Emma, who is super cute, super pretty, very nice. I'm afraid for her to be in this relationship with Norman and what might happen to her, because clearly Norman can't control himself. And then we have the moment where Norma becomes crazy, where we remember how crazy Norma, the mother, can be. She goes to this rich people party, who I guess the girl she was invited to it. So she went there, pretended to be her. The guard, she didn't know the password, which was kind of funny how she for a moment was trying to figure it out and trying to look at the thing, and she took forever before she finally said, I don't know the password. He said, get out of here. So what does she do? She sneaks in, she climbs over like the fence around the place and runs up to the windows like a weirdo. Norma is a weirdo. I'm sorry. I like her, but she's weird. And she sees the sheriff there, who they had a good moment earlier where he hugged her goodbye and he was leaving the motel. I'm still wondering if there's something there between them. But she told him everything. She told him the truth. She even told him that she fears Norman had something to do with her, or at least she said that he was the last person that saw her, and she's afraid for this girl's safety. So she kind of implied that she's even afraid for what Norman might have done. And again, I still was unsure whether this girl was at the party or whether she was still there. And then while Norma was leaving and driving away, she sees this sign for a construction site of they're building this bypass right in front of the highway that leads to her motel. So it's going to completely kill her business, it seems like. It's ruining it. So she freaks out. She gets pissed. She even runs the sign over. Before that, when she gets out of the car and she's like hitting it, kicking it, throwing stuff at it, like hilarious. I'm sitting there laughing at how crazy this woman is and how I'm reminded of how not normal she is, and she is why Norman is as crazy and fucked up as he is. It starts with the mom, and there you go. Now, the episode ends with we see at the lake the girl's body. So the girl is indeed dead, and Norman presumably killed her. What else could have happened to her? That sucks. I mean, I like this girl. We only spent one episode with her. Sure, maybe it has something to do with the fact that I think she's hot. But also, she seemed like a person who took care of herself, knew what she was doing. Sure, she was an escort or whatever, but she seemed independent. And there were things I liked about her, and I wanted to see what they were going to do with her. And then, no, they kill her. Norman killed her, in fact. Ouch. Now what? What do you do? Her car's still there. Her stuff is still in the room. What do we do now? How does Norman get away with this? How does Norma deal with eventually realizing that this girl is not going to come back? Another side plot is Dylan and his father, his uncle father, have their own thing going on at this sort of cabin in the woods. And while they were there, this dog comes out of nowhere, gets into a fight with their dog. The father shoots this dog. Next day, their neighbor shows up, and he's acting weird, sketchy, and he says, "Hey, I'm looking for my dog." And I'm thinking, oh, fuck, all right, so they killed this guy's dog. We got a war going on, right? Well, later on, we find out that this guy doesn't have a dog. He heard the gunshot and went over to basically check these guys out and see what's doing over here and maybe even scare them a little bit to take control of the area. But Dylan and his father went there and kind of, I don't want to say took back the control, but they definitely said, hey, we're not backing down. You stay where you are. We're going to do our thing and leave it at that. Now, that's not going to be the case, but still, I like the idea of Dylan having his own story and being as far away from the Bates as he can. He's too normal to be dealing with them. Good episode, like I said. Let's talk about The Flash. Wow, what an awesome episode. This might be, I don't want to say the best Flash episode yet, but I definitely had some great thoughts coming out of this. Episode was entitled Out of Time. And at the beginning, we see Barry and Linda, his new girlfriend, who I like. They're on a date. They're going bowling until they run into Iris and Eddie. Oops! Because Iris is like, hey, let's double. Let's make this a double date. Because that's what Linda wants to do, right? After Iris told her that Barry likes her. This isn't awkward. And while they're bowling and having fun, there's a moment where Iris, takes some, ketchup off of Barry's face, and Eddie saw that and got uncomfortable. So it was just a really messed up situation, I guess. Barry and Iris were the only ones who didn't get it. But the overall plot of the episode was this guy Martin, who is the weather wizard, according to Cisco, the brother of the weather wizard sort of guy from the first episode. They both have the same power. So this guy is here to get revenge on Joe West for killing his brother. And I really liked it. I liked that not only do we have a villain who is connected to somebody from the pilot, which feels like so long ago at this point, but still I like that they brought that back. It was somebody that was going directly after Joe West. It gave Joe West his own sort of plot to do, and even later on when he told Barry, look, you and Iris stay out of this, you take care of her. This is on me. Let me take care of this. Let me deal with this. I love that. There's a moment actually where they're driving and it looks like it's raining, it's coming down hard, and then they eventually realize, or from the radio, that it should be a sunny day, and the guy's following them from behind, manipulating the weather. I love that. He tried to blow up the car with lightning. Barry zoomed out of there. So that was very cool. The moment later on, though, I admit was a little weird. Martin just walks right into the police department like nothing. No cops recognizes who he is besides Joe West. Nobody's like, he just walked in. Wow. Undetained, nothing. Okay, fine. So then he goes after Joe. Looks like he's about to kill him. The boss, the chief, actually stepped in and saved Joe's life and got electrocuted. I wasn't expecting that. So that was something. And then I want to talk about Cisco, who is becoming wary of Harrison Wells. He's thinking about everything that's going on between that reporter guy who has been following Wells and said what he said to Barry and to Iris, and also what Joe West was thinking about earlier. Cisco's thinking about this. I like that. I like that he's finally, if anyone is to put something together with Wells, it should be Cisco. He's the smartest one in the group, besides Wells. And then Cisco basically figures it all out. And Wells, after that sort of breakfast, was it, he was having with Caitlin, in which he turned back around, the wheelchair was gone, his glasses were on. I loved it. So he shows up, and he tells Cisco everything. We finally find out why Wells is doing what he's doing, why he is Reverse Flash, but yet helping Barry learn everything. And holy fuck, did it not make complete sense. I was wondering if, when we found out his reasoning for everything, if it would be convoluted or if it would make sense. And it made sense to me. You have a guy who's not from this time, he's from the future, and he, I guess, came here in his fight with Barry at the beginning when his mom got killed. So now all Wes is doing, or Wells is doing, is he created this experiment that creates the Flash. And he's trying to train the Flash and teach him everything that he can with his speed so that Flash can work up to the point of time travel again so that he can get back. So it's almost like Reverse Flash, who is Flash's greatest enemy, is accidentally back in time, creates him, and makes him the Flash that he knows and hates, just so that he can get back to his time. I mean, it sounds crazy, but it sounds like something he would do. It makes sense. I liked it. I liked it a lot. But then he killed Cisco. Wow. I was shocked. I was sad. I sat there open-mouthed for a while. I know some people online say that they don't like Cisco. He's annoying. I've never felt that about him. I thought he was funny. And it sucked to see that happen. I could not believe it. Then, near the end, we see Barry and Iris going to try to save Joe West, and the wizard man is doing what he's doing. He's manipulating the water, about to send a tidal wave over the city. And before that, Iris tells Barry that she is in fact in love with him. She didn't realize it, but she now knows she's thinking about him. It must be that. They kiss. Wow. Because I was sitting there thinking that, okay, I could wait for these two to get together. I could wait for that to happen in like season 2, the middle of season 2. Like, I could hold off on them being a couple. But then, no, they kiss. Not expecting that. Then Barry, reluctantly, sure, but tells her he's the Flash. Shows her. How much is happening in this episode? Wow! But then Barry has to run as fast as he can to stop the tidal wave. And he runs so fast that he time travels. Because earlier when Barry was running, it looked like he saw himself in the fast motion of him running. And I was wondering what was going on too. It was confusing. You get to the end and you see that it was him time traveling. So the end of the episode ends with it's 3 days earlier. So basically everything that we've seen hasn't happened. Or at least up until when the Wizard Man kills the doctor or the coroner or whoever he killed at the beginning. We're at that point. So everything that was shocking and crazy didn't happen. You could say, should I be pissed about that because they just did all this stuff and then undid it? Look, I was into it. It still gave me that emotion, that shocking emotion and feeling that I got while watching it. And then the way how they took it away, the reason that they took it away, I think is something bigger. Barry can now fucking time travel. I mean, that's huge. That's just as much of a cool, awesome reveal as everything else was. So I can't wait to see now what they do with this, how Barry copes with this, how much different this stuff will play out, or if it will play out the same at all. Who knows? I loved it. I did. I loved it. Let's talk about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. This episode was entitled One of Us. And we see at the beginning Skye's father, who, can we call him Mr. Hyde? I think it makes sense just to call him Mr. Hyde. That's clearly who he is. So he goes and he recruits this woman who has knives for fingers. She's not Wolverine. She's not Freddy Krueger. She has knives for fingers. She doesn't even have abilities. A lot of the people in this group don't necessarily have abilities. Just things have happened to them to where they're, I don't want to say special, but there's something up with them. And I thought that was interesting. I thought that Skye's father creating an army to take it to S.H.I.E.L.D. was cool. And even one of the characters had a Bane-like mask, which was funny. And then when he takes off the mask, he has this primal scream, which maybe technically he does have abilities, right? He screams and everyone just passes out. I thought they died, but they didn't die. And then the shot where all the birds fell out of the sky. Fuck, if they didn't look dead, I don't know what happened to them. So that was cool. And also, Skye's father's plan was to lure Coulson back home to Wisconsin. This was a pretty personal thing going on here. I think this was pretty worthy of almost a finale type plot. It seemed like it was heading in that direction. I loved the fight at the end at the football stadium. May especially kicking ass. So that was cool. We do get a moment where Gemma says she can't forgive Fitz for everything. And that's a little sad, look how close they were last season. And sure, they've been through a lot. And it was mostly Fitz not liking how she shunned him away. And it wasn't the same. But now it's her not liking what he did, lying to her. I'm not saying she doesn't have a point, but I am on Fitz's side for why he did what he did. Blair Underwood was the guest star on the show, and I liked him in the episode. We find out that he was Melinda May's ex-husband. Well, what? Who expected that? I sure didn't. And I liked how the episode played up with that. Not only the group finding out about it, but he was brought in to be, I guess, a therapist for Skye. And Skye's reaction to it, wanting to ask him questions about what is it like to be married to May. It's a great series of questions because I want to know the answers to that as well. And I liked them going back and forth. I liked him trying to help Skye. I loved the scene where she was sleeping and even while she was sleeping, the earthquake abilities were happening. Wow. She can't even control it while she sleeps. I love this. I love her dealing with these abilities, trying to control it and trying to get a handle on it. I did like even towards the end where it looked like she has controlled it, stopped it, but no, all she did was make it happen inside of her. She put it inwards, and it bursted like the veins in her skin, and she had bruises on her arms. Like, fuck, that looked brutal. The moment where the mysterious eyeless man, he has no eyes, he showed up and took Sky's father, took him wherever. I don't know where they are. I don't know where Raina is. I don't know what this guy is doing or what he has going on. Who is the person that's supposed to be the executioner, jury, whatever, for Sky's father? I don't know. So many questions. Let's not forget about Mac, who I guess has kidnapped Hunter, had him tied up to the bathroom, was feeding him pizza, which, I mean, I would have liked pizza. But then we find out by the end that he is working, Mac and Bobby is working for the real S.H.I.E.L.D.? What? I don't know, I'm a little confused. I personally thought they were working for Nick Fury. I personally thought that would have made more sense. But I guess when you think about it, S.H.I.E.L.D. was so big that I guess you would have different people trying to keep S.H.I.E.L.D. alive, and this is just another group doing it. If we're going to unify the two S.H.I.E.L.D. groups and see what we can do with it, I'm interested. Don't get me wrong, I'm interested. I like the episode. But now I want to talk about Arrow, because I really enjoy this episode, entitled The Offer, because last time we saw Arrow, Ra's al Ghul offered his position to Oliver, and we see that at the beginning as well. And wow, I mean, how do you react to this? Especially Ra's al Ghul explained to him basically everything that's going to happen. And he was right in a sense, you know. He said that the city is going to turn on him, that he's going to lose his friends, and he's going to be alone. Or he could become Ra's al Ghul, have the League of Assassins, have the unlimited resources, and basically you could still do what you're doing. You don't have to kill, but you can do what you're doing and do it on a bigger scale, be more successful at it. And I like that Oliver, took this under serious consideration. He didn't just say no. He thought about this. He sat back and said, all right, what am I doing? What good am I doing as the Arrow? He questioned whether it's working. I love that. I mean, some people might not love that the hero is questioning himself, but why the fuck not? Why, when he laid everything out and explained, look, my mom has died, Tommy has died, the criminal activity is still going around, look at everything. I mean, Sarah died. It makes sense for him to feel like it's possible that he's failing. So I love that. I love a hero that questions himself. And then by the end of it, though, he realized that Felicity and Diggle were right. That he doesn't need the city to say thank you. He does this just for his self-satisfaction to know that he is saving cops or saving people, saving families for whatever danger that they're in. It's the little things, really, that he's doing it for. So I like that as a character arc. Nessa turns down killing Thea, which, thank God. Thea, I wanted to smack her for yelling at Nessa to kill her. I'm like, why? You want to fucking die, Thea? But thankfully, Nessa is smart enough to realize that Thea really didn't do it. Thea did tell her that, but still, okay. And even later on, Nessa, when she went back to Roz and realized that Roz didn't kill Oliver and that it didn't go the way she planned, she threatened to leave because she was pissed. Like, how could he give the throne to somebody else that's not his daughter? And when he admitted that, well, it's because I don't approve of the whole Sarah thing, she got pissed, she left, he didn't care. Wow. A falling out in the Ra's al Ghul household. And later on, when she goes up to Laurel, and I mean, she basically says, "Hey, I want somebody to talk to. You remind me of Sarah," and I like that nicer, sweet side of Nessa. It's something that we don't get to see. We haven't really seen at all. And maybe it's a side that Sarah fell in love with. And so if we see more of that, if she maybe becomes part of the good side, she even threw out offering to train Laurel, which I like because there was a moment where Oliver said to Laurel, "You still need more training." I love that. I love the way he delivered the line. I love the way how she said, "How many times are you going to say that?" And he said, "When you don't need more training." It's just, I love Oliver in the Arrow voice and how direct and blunt he is. And some people, I've seen some people online who, I mean, obviously they don't like Laurel, right? Well, some people look at Laurel as Black Canary and say, "See, she's incompetent. See, she can't be the Black Canary. She sucks. She's horrible, this and that." And it's like they don't get it. They're just so quick to hate on her that they're not realizing what the show is doing. The show is doing something smart. Would you rather Laurel just at the beginning or at first be a badass? As soon as she puts the costume on, she's a badass? No. She's making mistakes. No, she's not ready for this. No, she's not as good as Sarah. It makes sense. She's going to need training from more than just, I'm sorry, Wildcat, more than just a boxer. She's going to need training from somebody from the league, and that's how she gets better. I trust the show for how they're handling Laurel becoming Black Canary. They're taking their time. It's not being rushed, in my opinion. So I'm for it. The main villain of the episode was this guy called Murmur, who I had to look up because usually when you get these kind of weird or random villains, I look them up just to see if they're in the comic books. This one is very cool, almost directly from the comics as well, with the mouth being sewn shut and just being sort of a random criminal leader of a gang. It was cool that they did that. And we get a moment where Detective Lance, or now Captain Lance, tells Arrow that he's done with him. Look, you lied to me about my daughter being dead, and I've thrown everything. I've risked my career. I've threw away my own personal thoughts on vigilantes to help you, and that's what you do. And I understand where he's coming from. I would be lying, though, if I didn't say that I wasn't thinking on Lance is looking up at the Arrow on, like, a railing, and he's talking to him, and he's saying all this stuff. And I can't help but think, how can you not tell that that's Oliver? I mean, it's not even like he has his hood covering most of his face, like when they're usually face-to-face. No, like, you're looking up at him. You're seeing almost his entire face. He could tell it was Roy so easily, but not Oliver. I still have a little issue with that. But still, great scene, great acting from Lance. And Thea is still mad at her father. I get it. It makes sense. I do like that she's not so quick to forgive him. I'm not even suggesting that Oliver has forgiven Merlin, but I do find it odd that I know he doesn't want Thea to be the reason why Merlin dies, to save her soul and everything. I get that. But why are we not addressing the fact that Malcolm had Sarah killed? Why? It's a non-issue for Oliver. It's just he acknowledges it, but he doesn't do anything about it, and that's what I don't understand. I would want him to. I mean, like, what are we waiting for, right? He wants Malcolm to heal. For what? Is he going to let him heal and then go after him, man to man, and like, hey, we're going to settle this? Because Sarah is dead because of this guy, and like nobody cares besides Thea. Thea's the only one who's still mad. I want to talk about Oliver and Felicity, because when Ra's al Ghul was talking to Oliver at the beginning and saying all of the countless things he was saying, he also mentioned that, hey, Oliver, there's a woman that you're in love with, but you can't be with. You know you can't be with. And I didn't know who he was talking about at first. I mean, it could be a couple of different women, right? Laurel, Sarah, or Felicity. Now it makes me think he was talking about Felicity when Oliver found out or saw Felicity with Ray Palmer. And now knowing that they're a couple, and Felicity even says to Oliver later on, like, hey, look, we might not be together, but that was your decision. So at least she blames Oliver for them not being together. And Oliver, he's taking it as well as he can, I guess, her being with Ray Palmer. But I don't know. I still have trouble thinking of them as, like, soulmates, but who knows what they're going to do with that. Roy and Thea kiss. She just goes over his house and says, I can't handle it, I can't do this, I can't do that, and then they kiss. Okay, I did like them as a couple, so let's keep them as a couple this time. And the episode ends with Ra's al Ghul dressed up like the Arrow, killing a bunch of guys, and telling one guy, hey, tell everybody what you just saw. Basically tell everyone that the Arrow is killing people. And I don't know if he's doing that to make his prophecy, premonition, his speech to Arrow become more true, or really what? I don't know what he's doing. It was weird to see Ra's al Ghul dress up like Arrow. I was like, really? Really? And then he didn't even disguise his voice, or it didn't even sound like Arrow. It was a little awkward, but interesting. I'm curious to see where it goes. The quote of the episode. I might not do this as much as I like, but when this was said, I laughed. Hysterical. All right. When Oliver shows up to Thea's apartment and he asks her, hey, is Merlin still alive? And Thea says, in my head, I've already slit his throat 7 times. And then Oliver tries to cut her off, and she says, and I've broken his neck twice. Like, just, I don't know, how straightforward she delivered the line, like, seriously delivered the line. I loved it. I thought it was hilarious. Great episode, like I said. Last, but certainly not least, let's talk about Supernatural. That too came back. The things they carried. The episode begins with one of the most horrific and disturbing introductions to a Supernatural episode, I think. You see this girl hanging upside down. It's like we're in her point of view as she's waking up, hanging upside down. She's afraid. We see this person. We don't know, like, what exactly is going on. He puts a bucket under her, cuts her throat, starts drinking her blood. It was fucking disturbing. I'm glad it went by quick because, I don't know, it was creepy. We see Sam and Dean. Dean finding out about this particular thing. And Sam is hiding the fact that he's looking up more information about the Mark of Cain. Desperately looking for anything that he could do to save his brother. I feel bad. I feel bad for how much Sam is trying. And it's like nothing is going to work. Nothing is working. There's nothing we can do, it seems like, to save Dean. And I don't know. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means for Dean. I don't know what that means for the finale of this season and what's going to happen with it. But then we see Cole, the character Cole, who we haven't seen in a while. And I'll be honest, I'm not saying I was ecstatic to see the character back, because I didn't like him at first. Sure, they had him sort of forgive and leave, but he was back, and he wanted to help Sam and Dean because he knew some of the people and families involved in these series of murders because they were all in the military like he was. I don't know. I don't really know if he could be trusted, especially, well, later on when Sam and Dean gave him the out to leave. And what does he do? He turns back around, drives off, and even Dean's like, you see? And you bought this guy dinner. But then when we find out the actual plot, because we don't really know what the hell is going on, people are killing people, drinking their blood, drinking tons of water. It's like, what the fuck is going on? We finally find out that they were all, this whole group of soldiers went down to this underground area where they found something. And whatever they found went inside one of the soldiers, possessed him, I guess, and has been possessing these same people in the group. And when I saw this play out, I instantly thought, wow, this Sounds familiar. This is the same exact plot from Deliver Us from Evil. Wow. I mean, granted, I watched this movie fairly recently. It came out last year. And look, 10 seasons of Supernatural. It's not like it's the first time Supernatural took a plot from something else I've seen or heard before. It makes sense. But it's funny how recent I just saw this, and then they do an episode with the plot almost being identical. Now, there was some connection to this worm that was going inside these people's bodies, and they tried to say that it was like, was that season 6 or 7 when Bobby and a bunch of them, I think even Dean, got possessed by this thing, and they had to lure it out, came out of their ears, and it was weird. They tried to say it was the same thing, but it didn't look like the same thing. This one looked like a bigger... It looked like, for anyone who has seen Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday the 13th, that whole plot was Jason's soul or spirit possessing people, and it would be a similar way where the body would spit this worm demon thing down their throat, force it down, and it would inhabit the next body. So, okay, fine, we're taking things from other things. It was still a good episode. I liked it. I liked that we spent the end of it trying to save Cole, because Cole got the fucking worm put down his throat, and I thought they were going to kill him. Now, look, again, I said Cole wasn't my favorite character, but I did feel bad. He has a family. He has a daughter. We saw that earlier. So it's not like I wanted the guy to die. And he was fighting hard to try to stick it out. And Dean wanted to save him. So that I did get attached to. I like that Sam went off on his own. He had to kill Kit, the guy who was trying to kill his wife. So again, good episode. I love that my shows are back. A lot is going on. A lot is great for TV. I'm a very happy man. Anyways, guys, let me know in the comments below, which of these TV shows are you watching? Which was your favorite? What did you think of them? Like, comment, subscribe. Later.